So your new Chromebook, the Acer R851TN, is both a Chromebook, so it loads up to Google Chrome, and you just log in with your York School's email address, which is a Google account. It is also a tablet. It'll fold right over and become an Android tablet, which is a little confusing because that means that you can do a lot of cool stuff because you can do things off the web and with the Chrome Web Store, and you can also use Android apps. But you have to remember that there's two operating systems going here too. So there are some things that are going to work on both ways, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that there's also a built-in stylus right here in this garage door. Pulls right out. It's a fine point stylus. This is specifically great when you're using it in tablet mode and want to annotate over the top like a whiteboard feature. So let's take a look at the difference between the Chrome apps and the Android apps. All right, so your new Chromebook has two operating systems working in the back end. There's Chrome, which is Chromium. It's sort of like what you're used to on the web. And there's also Android, which is a part of the Google Play Store, if you're familiar with Android phones or tablets anyway. That's where you would go to grab those apps. So let's just take a look at those two differences real quick. Chrome apps on the web side of things or on your Chromebook side of things can be accessed through the Chrome Web Store. These are things like extensions, or if you wanted a bookmark to something like Pear Deck, you could open that up and there's the extension, and here's also the apps. Now, apps on a Chromebook live here at the bottom on the shelf, sort of like a dock in the Mac world. If you don't see one there, though, you can always add it by clicking on the launcher on the left. That's that circle at the bottom of your shelf, sort of like the Finder for a Mac. Here I can scroll down through some of the apps that I've installed and added to my account, and even grab something like Autodesk, Sketch. And when I drag it down to my shelf, two apps will kind of make room for it, and I can add it to the shelf. Now, an app in the Chrome world really just opens up a web browser, right? So if I click on Pear Deck and it's the web app, it's just going to bring me to Pear Deck to sign in. Sort of like going to peardeck.com. It's more like a visual bookmark. The Android side of things are a little bit different. When I click on the Play Store in Android, I'm not able to browse this store in a managed educational account. I can search for apps, but I can't install them myself. I literally have to talk to my domain administrator. So come and talk to Tom or I if you're in New York, and we'll push this out to you and your students if you see an app that you really like. Now, this is where it gets confusing a little bit because things like Classroom and Jamboard appear both on the web and in Android. So you have to kind of play with both to see what some of the advantages and disadvantages are. Personally, I like Google Classroom on the web better than the Android app. However, the Android app allows you to annotate over the top. So there are certain circumstances where I'd want to leave feedback to students and pen over the top in the Android tablet mode. Jamboard's similar in that it has some extra bells and whistles. So if I launch Jamboard in the Android view, and I go to my example here with my tiger, you'll notice that I have a few extra items on the toolbar on the left. One, for instance, in the pen tool is I have these assistive drawing tools where I can do my handwriting to text, my terrible chicken scratch that becomes cool shapes that I can layer, and even assistive tech where I can draw a bad kitty face, and at the bottom of the screen, due to machine learning, Google says, "Are you sure you weren't trying to draw a tiger?" And of course, yes, I was. You can play around with those. There's also, when you hit plus to add more, you can see I can add things like images, things from Drive. So if I click on Drive content, it'll launch Google Drive, which I can then bring up and pull in some, or I'll install it because it hasn't been forced out yet. But once it's installed, I can pull in items, files, docs from Drive into Jamboard and annotate over the top, almost like a worksheet type of format or solution. So I'll minimize that for a second. So the Android side is more about the touch sensitivity and those apps that run when you install them, which does take up space on your Chromebook, whereas the Chrome web apps really just sort of bookmark to a website, and those are part of your account but aren't necessarily downloaded to the Chromebook itself. Hopefully that makes some sense.